What's going on, everybody? It's a very special edition of the Countdown to the Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady, and joining me on this Furiosa Mad Max Saga review is the one, the only, David. What's going on, sir?
War Boy David.
Yeah, you were hanging out with the World Boys all weekend, man.
That doesn't sound right, Ted.
But it's true. It's absolutely true.
Kinda.
David is one of the War Boys. They were hanging out, drinking, partying. It was a grand old time.
I
This
should
is
have
gonna be a
painted my skin white because I got sunburnt, as you can tell.
It would have just been the sunblock, but people would have thought you were
Yeah.
cosplaying, but you'd be like, "No, it's just sunblock." Yeah, that's what it is. This is going to be a great review. We just got out of Furiosa, Mad Max Saga. This is a prequel to Fury Road, both directed by George Miller. This one not starring Charlize Theron, but instead Anya Taylor-Joy, and also includes Chris Hemsworth, as you've never seen him before. More on that in a second. No spoilers to start this review out. We're just going to talk about our feelings on the film, and then probably 5-10 minute mark. I'll go ahead and let everybody know that we're going to get into some potential spoiler territory. So that'll be your opportunity to pause the film. Sorry, pause this video and go ahead and watch the movie before we spoil anything for you. So, non-spoilerish, just our initial thoughts. I will start out by saying I enjoyed this movie. It did do some things that Fury Road did not do. I was a little bit more emotionally engaged in our main protagonist. Of course, talking about Furiosa. It definitely is great about world building. George Miller wanted to make sure, whether it's a detriment to the film or not, that he kind of explains this world, this Mad Max world that we remember from Fury Road. And so it's not only a prequel for her, but a prequel for like Immortal Joe, the Marauders, some of the factions that we saw in Fury Road. The action sequences were great, the ones that we got. Let's just say that, and of course, the cinematography is just stunning from start to finish. Um, all that I enjoyed it. I think it's probably on par with Fury Road for me, only because Fury Road did some things better. This one did some things better, um, but I wouldn't say it's gonna blow anybody's mind. I think the majority of the movie-going audience might feel some of the pacing issues that we might talk about here in this review. But Dave, what are your thoughts, sir, on Furiosa?
I have a lot of thoughts. A lot of thoughts. So I was there back in the year 2015, waiting in line for Mad Max Fury Road. And I was never a big Mad Max fan. When I was a kid, I I discovered Mad Max via I think like the ABC Sunday Night Movie, and it looked cool. And I think the kids at school said that it was a cool movie to watch, so I watched it on network TV, all edited and family safe. But I wasn't really a big fan, but I felt the the vibe that Fury Road was giving off, and people were. I mean, there was rumblings that this movie was going to be a great film, and of course, George Miller had taken a long time off from making a Mad Max film. So when Fury Road dropped, I actually, before I met you, before I was podcasting, I got a free ticket. It was a first come, first serve for the seats at the Alamo Draft House in New Braunfels, Texas. So
Wow.
I actually got to the theater. I don't know why I got there so early. I think I was doing other stuff in the area, and I just said, "Well, let me just go get in line." So I got in line, and I waited in line for 8 hours, I think, to see Fury Road back in 2015. But it didn't feel like 8 hours. I had my phone with me. I had a power bank, so I was on the internet anyway. So time went by fast. Time is not the same as it was back in the day. But anyways,
Yeah,
Fury
agreed.
Road was hailed as one of the greatest seminal films of this century, and sometimes people put it in the same uh, influence as films like Star Wars, The Matrix. Um, it's that type of film for some people. I think there's an argument for it and an argument against it, but it was the first time we got a film like that. And I'm talking about Fury Road from 2015. So Furiosa was my second most anticipated film for this year. Of course, we're gonna get Deadpool Wolverine in July. That's my most anticipated. This was my second most. I fell in love with Fury Road. It's that film is supremely rewatchable. It's a masterpiece considered by many. I didn't know what to expect going into Furiosa. I didn't know if we were going to get the same kind of frenetic pace, the same kind of structure. Um, it felt like we didn't quite get that. This is a prequel, like you said, to Fury Road. It's the origin story of Furiosa. We got that from the trailer. The trailers look fantastic. Anya Taylor Joy as Furiosa. We get Chris Hemsworth as pretty much what we can tell is the villain. And I thought right off the bat with the fake nose, he was playing an existing character, but younger. So that was my expectation going into it. Um, that in the story kind of surprised me in and of itself, but the way that the film was laid out, it's been a few hours since we've seen it now, and I can't help but to think that I don't know if anyone's ever coined this term. I know people have coined the term for the sequels,
Hmm.
but has anyone ever coined the term prequelitis? Because I think this film suffers a little bit from prequelitis. So
Do
George
explain.
Miller's George Miller's coming back to to the film that kind of reinvigorated his career, was a seminal film. We talked about that. It's held as one of the masterpieces of the century in Fury Road. But now he's doing a prequel to that super successful film, and it's an origin story. So the treatment from the studio might have been different. He actually got to shoot in his native Australia, which he couldn't do for Fury Road. He had to shoot in Africa because there was a big rainstorm, and Australia actually didn't look like a desert. Flowers bloomed. I don't know. There's a whole story about it on Google, I'm sure. So they had to ship everything to Africa and shoot Fury Road there. And this time it was cheaper because it was shot in Australia. And I wasn't quite sure if the originals took place in Australia. Do you know? Like the setting was Australia?
I don't think. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever really established. Maybe it was. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Mad Max fan. I love Fury Road. I know a little bit of behind the scenes for it, but it was a different film from Fury Road, and I came into the movie not expecting to get that same pop that Fury Road gave us, and I don't think it did give it to us to that extent. It does feel like it was that Furiosa was directed by a master filmmaker.
Sure.
You can tell it was very well made. Like you said, the cinematography was beautiful. We saw it at the Bullock Theater in Austin, Texas, which is the largest IMAX in Texas. Looked fantastic. It didn't look like film; it looked like TV. It was so clear and so sharp. Um, but it had the same color palette as Fury Road. I think that might be that and younger characters from Fury Road were the only real similarities in the director. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think I'm like I say this for every film. I'm gonna have to rewatch it again. I know I missed a lot of stuff trying to process everything. Okay, it's like okay, was there an Easter egg there? How does that relate to this? I mean, my mind is going 1,000 miles a minute. But it is an origin story. We get to see Furiosa early on, and we get to learn. Um, Essentially, I mean, of course, I don't think this is a spoiler, but how she loses her arm. I was waiting the whole film to see, okay, how does she lose the arm? And of course, we know some characters make it out alive and because we see them in Fury Road. So
Right, right.
um, that's a little bit of the prequelitis where you kind of like know these characters are safe. But as far as Chris Hemsworth, I didn't know what was going to become of him because I thought one thing going in and it was something totally different. But I thought the performances were good. Chris Hemsworth, he did a good job. Um, it felt like we're gonna get more of a character, more of like a funny character. There were some jokes that hit, but not as many as I thought. Um, Anya Taylor Joy, I heard going into it that she didn't she did a lot more physical acting, which it was a very physical role. A lot of running, a lot of jumping in vehicles, hanging off of stuff, as you would expect in a Mad Max film. Um, so it wasn't. I guess my to sum it up, it wasn't Fury Road. It was an origin story. It was a prequel, and still digesting it. But it was. I hate to say this. I mean, it's kind of like a cliche that came about a few years back, but it was a very well made film. You could tell it was very like there was nothing left on the table as far as like editing and special effects go. There's a few special effects where I was like, that didn't look quite that great. It was the body. It was the body simulation stuff from distance. You could tell that yeah, that was like a model of someone.
I remember one very early in the movie where I was like, okay, I mean, it was quick, but it didn't look great. And then there was also a vehicle towards the end that is being thrown or tumbled, and I was just like, wow, that looked horrible. But it's one shot out of like a million in this movie, and
Right,
everything
right.
else looked pretty stellar. So it's not a detriment in my eyes. But yeah, I totally get it. You mentioned Chris. I thought he did good.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't say that there's anything about his performance I didn't like. I actually thought from like the get go, from the trailers, I'm like they should have just cast the guy from the Mummy, Oded Fair. Um, I feel like Chris is just like channeling him. He's kind of got the look, and it's I don't know. There's something about the way he looks that kind of just takes me back to Oded from
What
the
was the
Mummy.
reasoning for the nose?
That probably is most of it. Yeah, maybe.
Like who came up with that? Like, what's the reason? I mean, did they not want him to look so much like Chris Hemsworth? I mean, like, because I thought he was a character from the past, and apparently I don't think he is. So why just give him a fake nose? I mean, was that just like a whim? Was that like a preference? I kind of want to find out what the reasoning behind the nose was.
I'm gonna have to look into that. Yeah. I was surprised to find out that the script for this was actually done before Fury Road was even filmed.
Oh
So this
wow,
was an idea that George had um, well in advance. It wasn't sort of an afterthought. It was a saga that he had planned, even though it took so long to come out. But the I know the filming took a long time, so maybe that's
yeah,
part of it there. Other stuff. Let's get into maybe our ratings right now, and then
okay,
we can talk about some spoiler stuff. For me, I like the world building. I know that it took a lot of time. Um, there's a lot of exposition in this movie,
hmm
but I think that when it starts ramping up, when the roller coaster finally starts heading down, it really takes off, and I'm really engaged in the story and the action, and I feel like this has more stakes to it. Fury Road felt like a comic book at some times, and that's not a
right,
bad thing.
yeah.
It just felt like less stakes were at hand. You kind of knew, who was safe, and there wasn't. It felt comic booky, where
Right,
like
because it was more
our
frenetic and more herky jerky, and as
yeah,
opposed to
and
Furiosa was more of a drama piece almost.
was more
Yeah,
drama, more ruthless, more brutality, um, and our main characters are like they're suffering a lot. I don't remember anything really bad happening to Tom Hardy, like physically in that movie. Even though
Well, he was
he's
pinned to the front of a car. His blood was getting transfused out.
yeah, which all still feels sort of comic booky, but
Yeah,
like in this one, our main act characters are all suffering. Things are happening.
yeah,
It's all bad. It feels there's more stakes, and yeah, it just feels like in this one it's a little bit more grounded, but that's
right.
not a bad thing. And then Fury Road, a little more comic booky, a little bit more action centric, but that's okay. This one, I'll get to my rating. 1 to 5 scale. I give this one a 4. I like the world building, some pacing issues. I think there's slightly too much too much exposition, but all in all, when it came down to like the story overall, I enjoyed it. I was interested. I was engaged, and I liked the entire final act. I think it's perfect. Anya did a great job. She had more lines than I thought that she was gonna have.
Yeah, me too. I
Um,
heard she had hardly anything, but yeah, she had lines. I
she
mean,
had lines.
she did a great job of non-speaking and speaking. I mean, sounds
So I
really
give it a
good.
4. What do you have?
As of right now, I want to say 3.8. Um, like you said, the pacing was kind of off, but even with like the pacing and um the lack of being um I don't want to say it wasn't a true prequel, but it didn't have that same stylized um kind of movement. It wasn't as fast as Fury Road was. But
Yeah,
of course, it's an origin story. You have to kind of slow down. You have to do more exposition, like you said. And my buddy Carl saw it with us, and he said, "Yeah, you could cut out about 20 minutes." I agree with that.
I think so. Yeah,
But yeah, overall, I'd love to watch it again to get like my final judgment on it. But it felt like every time I felt like, okay, well, this is slowed down a lot. Where's the next action set piece? And once I said that to myself, the next action set piece was about a minute away. So as far as that type of pacing, I think it almost hit the nail on the head there. Um, but I think there was maybe a few ways they could re-swizzle the story a little bit to make it a little bit um, more like Fury Road in a sense. But of course, you want it to be its own thing. But then again, you have Fury Road that exists, and people know it's a prequel, and people that are fans they kind of want to see the same thing. And we got a lot of what we saw, but I don't think it was as dynamic as Fury Road. Super cool stunts, chases, trucks, vehicles, surprises, but I think it could have been. I don't know. It just felt like something was missing a little bit, and I don't know what that was, but um, that's kind of what I felt. So yeah, 3.8.
that brings our overall Geekcast score to a 3.9. Not too shabby, as I always say. We want to hear from you guys. Once you get a chance to watch it, let us know what you would rate it and tell us what you liked about it. Tell us what you didn't like about it. And if you're still with us and you haven't seen it, this is the part of the review where we might spoil some things. Not the entire movie, but if you want to be completely um, free of spoilers, this is the time to pause this video, come back after you watch it, and hear what we got to say about it. I will say that like seriously, I said it earlier, I'm really engaged with this story. She this is a tragedy. This movie is a tragedy. Whereas the first one kind of turns into a tragedy with the death of like one of the wives and like you kind of really feel for them. This one is so tragic. This main character, Furiosa, loses family, loses this potential love interest. Huge shout out to Tom Burke, who plays Jack, I think is what they called him. And like this dude needs to be like in a Marvel movie or something. Like he's just got this stoic presence about him. And he's just really cool. If he was in Star Wars, he'd be a scoundrel, like right off the bat. Dude's a
Hmm.
scoundrel.
You can play
and
Dash Rendar.
yeah, please. I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but like he's
Yeah,
killing this role here,
yeah,
and
yeah. He came out
he's
of nowhere. He came out of nowhere for me. I was like, "Who is this guy?" He's
yeah,
he's pretty much starring right now opposite Anya Taylor Joy in Furiosa right now, and he was there for a while, and
yeah.
he had the presence, like you said. It felt
He
like he was a
almost
dude that somehow was under my radar, and I hadn't noticed him yet. And but this was like his coming out party.
I dare say he kind of stole the thunder from Chris Hemsworth. There's a good like half hour in this movie where like Hemsworth isn't anywhere to be found, and this guy's filling all of our needs. I'm just like the dude's it. He's killing it. He just got this kind of presence about him, and he's kind of a great action star. I don't know what it is. Honestly, reminded me a little bit of Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan sort of has this way about him, his own kind of style, his line delivery, and all that stuff. I was like, I know it's not Sebastian, but it kind of looks like the guy. Anyways, I don't know why I brought that up. Yeah, he's great. Oh, the love interest. There's sort of like this love thing. Yeah, these feelings between these two
Potential.
characters. Potential. We don't
Yeah.
see anything directly, but like there's so many moments where there's something happening between these two, and it's almost more. There's this protective feelings between the two of them, and just what happens to some of the characters around her. I don't want to spoil everything. What happens to some of the characters around Furiosa is heartbreaking. And she's also just trying to get home, and it was ambiguous in the beginning. You're trying to figure out. Well, Hemsworth, his whole deal is like, where'd she come from? She's like super fit, super healthy. No, her hands are fucking clean. Like, where are you from? Because we want to go find that place and ransack the hell out of it. And so this whole time, I'm wondering, did they ever find out? They had captured her mom early on. They tortured her. They could have threatened the daughter. The mom would have gave up any information if they threatened
Right.
Furiosa, but it it kinda left it ambiguous, and I think that place still exists, even though Furiosa never really looks for it. Did they go find it? And they kind of tried to find it in Fury Road, right?
Right. Right.
It just didn't look the same to me.
I don't. Did they ever show it in Fury Road?
Maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, they talked about like the green place, and of course we see a
And
very green place in
yeah,
Furiosa. But see,
but
she
then they
had
didn't leave at the end.
so I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but didn't she have a tattoo of like the map to how to get there on her arm,
It was a like a,
like a star map or
star
something?
map.
Right,
Yeah.
but I mean, mariners like follow the stars to navigate. So I mean, if it's a star map to the place, where was that a star map to? I mean, is that just like a constellation? They really didn't clarify that really. And I figured
No,
she had the map to get home on her arm, and then it's like she should have just read her arm. But I don't know.
it's all good. The action sequences were too far between, but I still liked the creativity, the innovation of the action sequences. They weren't like Fury Road. They were similar in nature, but again, Fury Road felt like a comic book. It felt like these cars were going at like ridiculous speeds, and the movements were cartoonish, because they were speeding up the film when people were doing things.
They were slow
And
mo. Yeah.
yeah, and this one they didn't do it as much. They did it sometimes, but not as much. But I did enjoy like the seeing the fighting and the choreography of the movements between the actors. It was more grounded like that, but I still enjoyed it.
Mm.
Fury Road's sort of over the top action. This one felt more grounded, but there's one really long chase scene. I can't remember which one it is, and I was like, "This is cool. This finally we got like something on that first Fury Road level."
Hmm.
And I also liked the bullet farm. The bullet farm, that whole deal was freaking incredible. So
Yeah.
all the action sort of set up in the second half of this movie, and it all worked for me really well.
Yeah.
Um, Probably that first half, just like I said, a little too much exposition. Just the opening sequence and all that, just a lot. Did we even get a title card in this movie? I don't even think we saw a title card of Furiosa anywhere.
I don't think so. But when the movie begins, I thought it was interesting that they went all the way back to the origin of the wasteland, and they show like the old stock footage, newsreel stuff of like trees moving and a big explosion, it possibly atomic. You hear like radio voices talking about like pandemics and um, natural disasters and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool. They You heard it, you didn't see it per se. So I thought that was really cool to establish that. And then they showed Earth, and we get to see where exactly which continent this takes place on. And I thought that was a cool way to start it.
It
But yeah,
it was
you talked about
it was almost
the,
scary the way he started it.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's. I
It's a
mean,
little it's a little on the nose these days, if you ask
yeah,
me.
yeah, it's really close to home because of the whole pandemic situation. Um,
Well,
Contagion
pandemic and just
was
the
one of my favorite films.
polarization of politics and
Yeah,
nations at odds. I mean, it's
yeah,
all like doomsday clock type stuff these days.
right. And the very end too, they talk about war as well, and it's like, that's close to home too.
Hmm.
But lost my train of thought there. So yeah, it begins with like the newsreel type setup. Um, and I was going to talk about the you mentioned the racing, the being on the road. Of course, Fury Road was a lot of that. I was gonna say and address the technicality of the stunts in Fury Road. I think if you were to say that was at 100, I think maybe Furiosa was maybe at like a 70. To that extreme. But there were a few surprises, and they were pleasant. I liked them. I could hear some of the audience in our sold out theater kind of mention it and kind of like gasp and like, oh wow. Um, but yeah, it wasn't as technical as Fury Road. It was still good. Um, so yeah, I think that was one of the things that really kind of jumped out at me that we didn't get. I think we got more action sequences, but they were a little shorter and they were more spread out throughout the film, which I don't know. In hindsight, you can maybe think that that's maybe like not the best choice. Um, Thinking about Fury Road, there's a lot of exposition there too, but it's more um, spread out. It's tough to kind of manage that in your head because I haven't seen that movie in a little bit. But there is a part in Fury Road where there's like almost no action, and
Yeah, it's that second act when they
yeah,
leave
right.
and they're like,
And it's
we
that
should go
iconic
back.
shot of Charlize Theron dropping to her knees and screaming, like
Yeah,
taking the mechanical arm off and falling to her knees. Yeah.
yeah. I I wasn't asking any questions about Fury Road, like
Mhm.
where do these people come from? Where do these marauders come from? Where do the bullets get made? Where do they get the gasoline from for all these vehicles?
The
But
guzzling.
but but Georgia was like, "Hey, I'm gonna answer all these questions that you're not asking." So
Yeah.
it was interesting, and it kind of helps ground the movie a lot. That now we have all these explanations for things. There's a place called Gastown, and it's got millions of gallons of gasoline at this place, and they use it as trade for different things. There's a place that makes bullets. What else? Nothing. Just bullets. All they do is make bullets, and they trade it for gas or they trade it for food. And so yeah, it's this world building that he's doing. It works. I think there's probably what your buddy Carl said, 20 minutes to be cut. Somewhere in this first half or this first act is at 20 minutes because I like that we find all these places, and it kind of helps set the frame of this entire landscape, and like how these factions all function with one another, and where they come from or stuff like that. Like, it shows you that they're all just trying to survive, whereas you didn't see that in Fury Road. Really, people are just driving around trying to kill each other nonstop.
Well, we saw in the cavern when they would dump all the water and people had the bowls and stuff. But in
Yes, the peasants.
Furiosa, there's like
Yes,
mole people and the people that like live underground and like pop out and like want to like steal kids and stuff. It was kind of wild.
wild indeed. Yeah, no, they get all those people, and it shows you sort of the hierarchy within the Citadel.
Right? Yeah.
But like the Marauders, they come from a rogue faction from, I forget Hemsworth's character's name,
Dementus.
Dementor,
Dementus.
Dementus,
Yeah.
from Dementus, Lord Dementus. He wanted to be called, I
You're
think.
making a lot of Harry Potter connections here, Ted.
Yeah, you're right. We were talking about. What's hilarious? I was listening to the episode where you and I were talking about the Harry Potter reboot coming from Disney Plus. I think.
Oh man, I
No, not
can't
Disney
wait, man.
Plus.
I think it's gonna be
Um,
great.
Max. Yeah. Well, we had that whole discussion, and I was just like, "It.
You're
That's
like,
too big
no,
of a
it's too soon,
challenge."
right? That's what you said.
No, I just said it's impossible. Like,
Oh no,
you're not going to win over people who fell in love with Radcliffe and company.
man.
It's too hard to win them over.
I don't
It's
think
just
so, man.
it's going to be, well, social media is not kind
They can
these days,
actually do what's in the books more true to what the books are than the films ever did,
and
and it could be darker. Yeah,
they probably will. But you know what?
yeah.
The first hashtag you're going to see online, not my Harry. That's going to be it.
I
Hashtag not
was
my
gonna say
Harry,
not my Potter.
not my Potter.
Well, it doesn't have to
Exactly.
be. I mean, it's been years, man. When did the last film come out? Like 2012?
Probably so, but
It's been more than 10 years, Ted.
I'm
All
trying to
those
think.
kids are adults now, and now those kids have kids. And for those kids to be like, oh my gosh, they can see a Harry Potter TV show. And we all know Max does TV shows right, man. Look at Hot D. That's incredible, man. Hot D
There,
is incredible.
I'm
Didn't
trying
think
to
I'd say those words in that sentence, but
I'm trying to remember. There was a movie that came out in the last 5 or 6 years. I think it was a romantic comedy or something,
mhm.
and all the ladies were hashtagging not my something, and I don't remember what it was, but it happens, man. It's inevitable that they're gonna
Yeah,
get compared. And I know we're way off topic, but yeah, all the Harry Potter references probably from me listening to that episode that you and I did not too long ago. Yeah, what was I saying? Hemsworth. Oh yeah, the rogue faction that became the Marauders, broken
mhm.
from Lord Hemsworth's character.
I'm gonna say Lord Voldemort, Lord
Malfoy,
Dementus,
Dementus,
Lord
Lord
of Bullet
Dementus.
Town.
Yeah, it's George Miller, you know, building this universe and helping us understand the gravity of everything. It kind of puts it all into perspective. Whereas Fury Road was just like the Citadel was in the middle of nowhere, and if you drove that way, there's like swampland or like rice lands with people on stilts,
Yeah, that was
and
kind of
there's like
wild.
nothing else in the other directions.
Right.
So it was just like I said, that one was more of a comic book, and this one it's
Yeah.
grounding the story a little bit more by doing all these things. So I thought it was great.
I was gonna say,
Um,
well, Ted, if you know about the geography of Australia, right in the middle of Australia, there's just nothingness. It's the
mm,
outback. All the major cities in Australia are on the coastline, on I think the right hand side. If you look at the old world map, I mean, you have like Sydney, you have Melbourne, and it's all on the coastline. Everything in like the heart of Australia, it's just like desert, mountainous. There's signs everywhere in Australia telling you that, hey, if you're going to venture out this way, make sure you have extra gas, make sure you have extra food, make sure you have extra water, because we can't help you at a certain point. And if you get stuck out there, if your car breaks down, man, you're on your own.
And there's also dragons out there. Be careful with the dragons. Nobody would ever know. Yeah, this the fighting was good. The choreography was good. Um, Anya did a good job with the choreography. I thought between her and the editing and the sound editing, like all of that stuff to work really well.
Great
Sometimes,
mix. Yeah.
a lot of times, females in fight scenes, you're like, "Ah, it doesn't feel genuine." I just watched the trailer with, I'm sorry to say, Jessica Alba's got this new movie or TV show coming out where she's like a Navy SEAL or something like that. And I'm just like, I know Jessica doesn't hit that hard. Like it's not gonna work as well. But no, they did great with the editing, the sound mixing, all that good stuff. That's all stellar, 100%. Visually stunning from start to finish. Looks great. We talked about a couple of special effects that didn't look great. I mentioned one towards the end. A car had like fell off a cliff or something, or it got tossed, and it just
Right.
like,
There's also a woman that jumps on a horse that looked totally not good.
yeah, she made that in one leap, and I'm like, could she
Total
really do
Legolas
that?
move.
But then you told me she was 5'11". I'm like, okay, maybe she did do that.
I don't know, man. I'm 5'11", and I don't think I could jump on a horse if I was like physically fit. I mean, it was like all in one move. It was basically what Legolas essentially kind of did in the Two Towers,
Yeah,
but from behind a rider, not the front.
yeah.
So, um,
Yeah, I love the violence in this movie. Violence was all the way up, and you
and I don't,
felt
I don't, I don't think it was
everything.
as grotesque as Fury Road was. There were some scenes that they showed you that was a little bit more amped up in that department compared to Furiosa. You did see some stuff that was like, but it was more amped up, I think, in Fury
Did
Road.
you notice Immortal Joe's like secondhand guy with like the elephant foot?
Yeah, he had that same foot driving the car. The guy with the nose
Yeah,
that was in Fury Road as well.
I don't remember that foot from Fury Road, but I saw it in this one. I'm just like, why is his foot a tree trunk?
Yeah, elephantitis.
Bonkers. Great seeing Immortal Joe again.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic character, and
Right. And the original Immortan Joe passed away, who was actually Toe Cutter from a previous Mad Max film.
mm,
And after that Fury Road screen I did in 2015, he was part of a Q&A that happened. I think it happened at the Austin Draft House, and they simulcast it on over the internet for us to see on the big screen with Robert Rodriguez, George Miller, and I think Hugh Keys Byrne was his name. He passed away, I think, a few years after Fury Road, but they got a different actor to play him, and they look alike. I mean, it's
identical.
yeah, identical. You can't even the normal film goer is not going to be able to tell. They're going to be like, oh yeah, they got that same actor back, but no, they didn't.
Yeah, this one, what's different about this one is that Fury Road, we get Tom Hardy, who's already grown man, who's
Yeah.
been living in this wasteland for most of his life. But when we start out with this one, it is a teenage girl, a vulnerable teenage girl amongst these monsters. And so there's always this sort of fragility that we're just kind of stuck
Mhm.
in. Like we're just hoping nothing terrible happens to her. Like for the first 30 minutes of this movie, I honestly was like, is Anya Taylor Joy in this movie? We've not seen her, and it's been like a half hour already. I was just like, how is this movie working? And then I reminded myself that Carl said this movie's almost 2.5 hours. So I was like, there's probably a lot of Anya like coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, and this actress's name is kind of hard to pronounce here. It's Alila Brown.
Nailed it.
She's a dual citizen of Australia and Estonia. And yeah, she knocked it out of the park. She was really
She
good.
looks just like Anya. I'm just like, did they? reverse age Anya and like put her
Yeah.
face on like some child, but no, this girl looks just like her.
Yeah, she's been acting since 2019, but this is the biggest thing she's done.
Yeah, she did great, and also it again like that's why I'm so engaged with the story. Not once did I feel like Tom Hardy's character was ever in any sort of danger, but despite the fact that we know how Furiosa's story progresses,
Right.
um,
And
she's
that can be a tough thing. Yeah.
yeah, especially because if you're a father like we are, and you have daughters like we do, um, it's harder to watch movies with young girls in it these days. And she's also a young girl in the wasteland, and we know that Immortal Joe has wives, and you're just like this could all go insane really quick, and it's
Hmm.
just it'd be tough to watch anything like that. But yeah, so it completely different tone starting out Fury Road compared to this one.
Hmm.
Like this one, you're definitely going through more phases, and you're going through more of an emotional journey with these characters than you are in Fury Road. Fury Road is a great spectacle, start to finish. But just no like emotional engagement towards it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Again, I said earlier, you kind of feel for the wives here and there, but in this
And
one,
it was
different.
also the first, it was the first of something. We hadn't seen a movie quite like that. I mean,
Nope.
we'd seen Mad Max films, but this, like you said, was a spectacle, and we were just kind of blown away by all of the technical achievements, plus the directing, plus the acting, plus the special effects, plus the music by Junkie XL, Tom Hulkenberg. We had never heard anything like that. I mean, what big franchise takes like an EDM guy and has him score the film, And the music worked. It's iconic, right? I mean,
Zack Snyder's Justice
once
League.
yeah,
That's what. That's it.
once you hear the music, you know exactly what it is. I mean, you
Yeah,
know it's Fury Road.
yeah. You also forgot to mention who plays a metal guitar on a giant truck with flames coming out of it and like 30 speaker cabinets behind them. Like, who does that? Who does that?
The Doof Warrior, of course.
Yeah. It's so odd that like again, Fury Road was like episode I'm not even gonna say which episode. Fury Road was like Star Wars, where like stuff is just there. Stuff is already happening. We're just catching up, And this one took so much time to explain things. They're building a goddamn convoy and they're telling us every single part and what it does. And I'm
That's
just like,
true.
this is so different. And
And
it,
people
it
in the audience were like laughing. They're like, "What the hell?"
and it's I'm not even trying to say like it's better or worse, but how wild is it? It's just like the first movie you got dude playing guitar on speakers. Nobody's asking the question like when did this come together or like who came up with this idea? And yet we're like building a convoy from the ground up in this second one. And do we need to know that? I don't even think we need to know that. We don't need to know we're building a new convoy. Just it could have already been done. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's so drastically different that we
Mhm.
spend so much time learning who these groups are.
Right.
We're learning how these trucks got built.
Right.
Um, it's so different. I'm so surprised.
I do agree with your assessment that it is like a prequel in Star Wars, but to me, it struck me more like a Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, because in The Hobbit you got more exposition, you got explanation of the dwarves and the hobbits, and
Sure.
you did get some of that in the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings, but um, there was a lot of exposition for Fury Road. It just wasn't in the movie. There's a lot of stuff you can find out, like the Doof Warrior, for instance. He's blind. Did you know that?
Which one?
The Doof Warrior, the guy that plays the guitar, he's blind.
I think yeah, because he's wearing
Okay.
like this leather mask over his eyes, I think.
Okay. Well, I didn't automatically put all that together, but yeah, if you look it up, yeah, it says he is a war boy, but he's a blind musician, and He's a minor antagonist in Fury Road, which I mean, it's ridiculous, but it works. You know, I mean, we've seen footage and well, not footage really, but with stories and like what we've seen like Civil War stuff, and you have a guy playing the drums, in like the war party. Same concept. This time it's a guy playing electric guitar. So, and then of
Yeah.
course he had drums in Fury Road. I think we all remember that too. But yeah, it suffers from like the whole prequelitis thing. I think. Um,
I'll also say this movie ended kind of strange. Um, Again, spoiler territory. I don't know why you're still watching this if you don't want spoilers.
they've
Furiosa
seen the film
gets
already. They paused us and they've seen the film. Now they're back from the theater.
Furiosa gets her revenge.
Hmm.
Maybe dot 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 question mark.
Yeah.
It's left and it's not. I'm not gonna say it's ambiguous. We sort of know that she got her revenge, but we're so. I'm still asking why it took so long for her to get there. They wanted to kind of build this moment up at the end, and there wasn't a lot to build up to.
Well, I mean, they had to catch who they needed to catch.
Well, no, I'm saying after he's caught. After he's caught, there's like 12 minutes of just playing with your food. It's like, no, just take a bite. Um,
Well,
and
I
I
mean,
don't think it helped at all.
I think it goes back to the whole thing where there's no way if you want to just take that life that's like revenge, full repayment for what that character did to her in her life. So either you make it slow or you do something that happened which was very interesting. um I don't think it should have some implications in Fury Road, but I don't think it really does. If I'm Because there has to do something with like the Citadel and a certain spot there, but I don't know if that was ever referenced. Is there a scene where like they go into a garden or anything and get fruit or food or anything like that?
I don't recall, but now
I don't either. Yeah. Now
I'm
we're all
interested.
curious now.
Yeah, I am as well. Yeah. So yeah, all I'm saying is after the dude's caught, it's like an interrogation scene, but they don't need to interrogate the guy. So it's just kind of. I thought the scene kept going because we were gonna get to like a really satisfying moment. I don't think we got something that was satisfying enough to.
I'm not sure if I would say that. I think that when that what you call I don't think it really was interrogation, but I think it was like catharsis on Furiosa's part. She was trying to heal and she was trying to get that revenge that she desperately wanted and was seeking the whole film. And
Possibly, but they started saying things like, "I want my childhood back," and it's like,
right.
well,
And I think that's part of like the whole like
what
healing.
exactly?
Yeah, I mean, she pretty much knew. I mean, she would never get it back, but I mean, she was just kind of saying it out loud and taking out her anger. But I mean, she obviously knows she can't get anyone that she lost back, but she was still saying it. Give them back to me. So I mean, it's all part of the psychological aspect, I think, of it.
I think the ending was fine. I think it was fine, probably better than fine. Was it a great ending? I wouldn't go that far. I
Mm-hmm.
think if the thing that we think happened with the tree and all that, if we just get there faster, better than what we were being handheld through that last sort of 10, 12 minutes. Again, wasn't bad. If you're gonna torture the guy, torture the guy. Let's do it. This dude's
Yeah,
ruined your whole life. Let's torture him. Let's, you know, tie him to the hood of the car and go dune buggy riding or something like that.
Yeah,
anything. But it was odd that it went on so long and it didn't kind of have a big epic resolution. And it left it sort of like choose your own adventure. What happened? And it's like, what? Don't do that. Tell us what happened. But it's okay. It's still good. All in all, I had a good time. Second half of the movie just really takes off, and Tom Burke, his character Jack, I feel like stole the show when he was on screen. Damn, I wish if there's more Mad Max Saga to be shown, let's see that Tom Burke Jack movie. How about that? Let's follow that guy. Where's that guy been? He's pretty cool.
I agree. Yeah, you could totally do a spin-off. His name in the film, by the way, is Praetorian Jack.
Praetorian Jack.
Yeah.
I was,
so so I'm out here on IMDb and it says that Chris Hemsworth, his full name for his character is Doctor Dementis.
how does that make any sense?
I don't know. That sounds like something out of like
I don't
Rocky
think he
Horror or
said.
something.
I don't think he said doctor once. He said Lord. He said
Yeah.
maybe God or King at some point, but never doctor. I have a question for you. So Furiosa is on this convoy. Is she trying to escape, or the first time the convoy goes out and it gets attacked? We
Yeah.
don't know it's going to get attacked, but she's under the convoy.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
at that point, was she hiding or was she supposed to be there?
I don't
At first,
that
I thought she was hiding, but then it made it seem like she was supposed to be under there in case repairs needed to be made, or she was like a fail safe or a backup to someone else's job in case they lost a hose or got a
I
hose cut or something.
I think she's hiding or she's trying to escape.
I think she's definitely hiding the fact that she's a girl or a woman
Oh yeah, of course.
because
For sure, for
when the hair
sure.
comes down, you see Burke look at her and like what, like oh my gosh, that's a revelation right there.
I don't think anybody knows she's there. The
Right.
first guy that falls under the car,
Yeah, just looks at her like whoa.
he's so surprised, like, "What are you doing here? Don't let go." But yeah, I that was a little ambiguous. Not ambiguous. Sometimes I wish the answer would have been a little more clear. Like if
Mm.
she's sneaking out, or if we see her get into the convoy without trying to be noticed, then it's for sure 100%. She's trying to escape. She's been wanting to get home, and this is her first time trying to get out of the Citadel. I would have been fine with that. So, yeah, just my question, that's the way I read it, is that she was hiding or trying to escape, and she got caught up in everything, and it worked out for her kind of weirdly. She became a Praetorian driver, and that's like a big calling for some people. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
really cool look with the black painted forehead.
Yeah.
And she has very big white eyeballs too. It makes it look wow, like very, very arresting.
She has huge eyes.
Hmm.
Massive, beautiful brown eyes. Anyways, that is our long review on Furiosa Mad Max Saga. Be sure to catch it in theaters this weekend. Shout out to Warner Brothers, Fonz PR for all the great events that they held this past week. If you haven't already seen it, we put together a sizzle reel of our experience at the Circuit of the Americas during the GT World Challenge event, where they had War Boys hanging out, partying with us, and they were meeting with the race car drivers, taking photos with fans, and handing out free swag. We also have some free swag for you. Head on over to our social media pages where we are going to be having a Furiosa giveaway. All the details will be on our social media. Your opportunity to be the winner of a Furiosa t shirt, as well as some other cool small prizes, which also include a Furiosa car decal magnet magnet decal. We'll go with that.
And
Awesome.
it's a
We also
big
want to
one.
hear from you guys. Let us know what you thought about the movie. Give us your own rating, and yeah, stay tuned for more movies and more passes that we'll be giving out all summer long. Anything else, Dave?
I think that's pretty much it. Go check it out. Go support movies in theaters, and I think you'll have a good time.
Absolutely. For the Kansas City Geeks, my name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me on this Furiosa review is the one and only David.
War Boys forever.
Witness me. Take it easy, guys.
Where's the spray
Peace.
paint?